Yes, guys, and welcome to Sunderland vs Watford match review. Now, of course, Sunderland did fall to a very disappointing result yesterday. I think if you look at it on paper and you see that we scored a last-minute equaliser, you might have seen it as more of a positive, but we did have a couple of very, very good, clear-cut one-on-one chances straight after the equaliser, which just made it so much more difficult to take. It made it such more difficult result to swallow. But on the whole, I think Watford at the very least deserved a point. I think you can't play poor for 75, 80 minutes and then expect to come away with 3 points. And that's not to say that we were just simply poor. Watford were good, probably better than what we anticipated. I said in my preview that I expected them to be a good team, but I feel like there might have been a level of maybe underestimating them a little bit by some of the lads, but equally we need to do the job. Tactically, were we correct? We'll get into that shortly, but first and foremost, I will sort of apologise that it's yet another review that is a day after the game. I think I have been at work for every single game since the Sheffield United game at the beginning of January, which is just a ridiculous run of games. Usually I might do 3 or 4 and I'm frustrated. I think this has been the longest run of games where I've been at work, and it's just the way my rota works, unfortunately. And for those of you who don't know, I do 24-hour shifts at work, so even if a game is early or it's later in the night or whatever, I'm still at work for 24 hours and I can't do anything until the next day, unfortunately. So that's the way it works. But before we do get into the review, if you hit the like button for me, it's so appreciated, particularly when it's a shitty result like this. It really does put more of a smile on my face. And subscribe if you are new. I know I keep on pecking, I keep on asking, but when I do ask at the beginning of the videos, I feel like I'm getting a new bunch of subscribers with every video now, and it's really nice to see a new influx of new subscribers and enjoying the content as well. And of course, I still appreciate the long-standing subscribers and the support I get on the channel anyway. But getting into the video, so we did get a little bit of news, there was a lot of rumours before the game that Job had rolled his ankle in training or something along those lines. And those rumours turned out to be true. And so we did have Job dropping out last minute. So the lineup we did go with was Pato in goal, Cirkin, 09, Mepham, Hume. Then we had Samed starting as the holding role. Then we had Rigg and Neil pushing in front. We had Roberts on the right. We had Lefay on the left. And of course, we had Isidore up top. Now, getting into the game, and I am going to say straight away before people jump down my throat, because I have stuck up for Samed over the last couple of appearances he has had, and I still stand by what I've said in those ones. But in this game, I don't think his abilities or the role that he plays affects the game anywhere near enough, or it didn't suit this game. And additionally, I think he was quite poor. I don't think he was involved enough, and when he was on the ball, he was too slow. Which might sound like I'm being contradictory because I have explained his role before, but even in his role, when there were blatant options on, he was taking 2 or 3 touches too many, and then it might have been a short pass or a pass that didn't have enough power on it, and he'd give it away, and there was a few loose passes in there, and even the minimal role, or the sort of, like I said, the unglamorous role that he has had, he wasn't even doing that enough, in my opinion. So I will hold my hands up and say that I do think he was quite poor in yesterday's game. But yeah, again, that's not to say that I discredit and go back on everything I've said for the last couple of games. I think he did his job well in those previous ones, but in this one, I think even the unglamorous role that he does have, I don't think he did that particularly well yesterday. And that's not to say he's the only one who did, by the way, because he's definitely not the scapegoat from yesterday at all. There was a lot of poor, ineffective performances on that pitch against Watford yesterday. But getting into it, I felt like we came out and, I've seen a lot of people say that as soon as we score a goal, we sit back and welcome pressure. I feel like we were very similar anyway, because when we first started that game, I felt like we sat back in our banks and not sort of invited pressure, but we were very rigid. We were very, sort of disciplined, and we did sort of sit back somewhat off the ball, and which we did allow them to come at us, and then we would play on the break. But we did look a lot more threatening when we did go forward. We allowed them a lot of possession, but without them looking particularly threatening whatsoever. But then we did break, and we can have a pop at all the, the defenders and defensive work all we like. We were so wasteful going forward, even if they are half chances. Even though they did have a lot of possession without making too much. When we did break, Lafay did some excellent work down the left-hand side, cuts into Cirkin, he pulls it back to Rig, and a handful of times we've seen this with Rig recently, pulled to him just inside the box, just needs a clean shot, scuffs it and he goes to the keeper. Another one where we worked down the left-hand side, pulled back to Rig, needs to hit the target and it's been blocked and it goes wide. Little chances like that, we need to be taking him. Roberts broke down the right hand side a handful of times, then he kind of fall over the ball, and then we break when there's men in the box. Those tiny little, what at the time seemed like half chances and basically non-stories. Those are the things, and those are a team that are trying to go for the top two, or they want to get automatics. We need to be ruthless, and that we're just so easy to deal with in that sense going forward. And then we did eventually manage to break the deadlock. And it was almost against the run of play somewhat, because like I said, they did have a lot of possession, but we were still making half chances on the break. Corner comes in, finds Hume on the opposite side of the back post, who's totally free. He sort of volleys it and cushions it back across goal. 09 totally unmarked, brilliantly done. Diving header to make it 1-0. Fantastic. But then we did, maybe those sort of half chances were a lot more few and far between, but I still think we're still almost not as defensive, but we're sort of sitting back just as much as we were from the beginning of the game. I don't think we scored and then we're even more defensive. I think it was sort of more of the same, but we weren't just getting a foothold in the game. And the physicality of Watford, we really, really struggled to deal with. And I just felt like every second ball, every loose ball, they were getting onto it ahead of us. Some of it, I do think it was generally just sort of rub of the green, where there were so many occasions where they'd be driving at us, be it on the left, on the centre, down the right. Regardless of what it was, someone would put a challenge in, and every ricochet, every deflection just seemed to fall into every Watford player's path. And it would never seem to fall for us. It was constantly them. But they did get an equaliser. Bull gets put in the box on the left-hand side. I think is it Doumbia, the young lad. I think he's only 18 years of age. Free header from about 7 yards, point-blank range. He goes sort of straight at Patterson, but with a lot of power. Great reflex here from Patterson. He managed to parry it away from goal, which is something I complain about Patterson a lot. Usually parries it straight to the danger. Parries it away from goal. The young lads followed it up again, but Dennis Cirkin's behind him. It's going away from goal. No challenge has to be made. Just usher him away. Keep him there. That's all you have to do. Cirkin just wildly swings at the ball to get him, try and get it there first, when he really does not have to whatsoever. On the replay, is the contact, is the not? Maybe minimal, maybe a little bit of some. Either way, for me, it's a penalty. And he's giving the referee something to think about. No challenge had to be made there at all. Kid has his back to goal and he's going away from goal. Anyway, so they take the penalty. Sits Patterson on his arse to make it 1-1. Half time, pretty poor to be honest with you. And very, very frustrating to be honest. We just looked so toothless. But I thought, right, second half, this is where we're going to usually come out. Wilson, I will say, for me, I was very, very disappointed with Wilson. In that I feel like their number 25, their centre-back, and I can understand Wilson's frustration. He was all over Isidore all afternoon, all day, absolutely all day. The amount of times where he was wrestled to the ground, in the box, out the box, was ridiculous. And the referee wasn't giving him shit. Yet if you sneeze near a Watford player at times, your yellow cards were coming out. Do you know what I mean? The amount of simulation, time wasting that was ignored. But I'm not going to go too much into the referee. But my original point with Isidore was he was buying into it, and he was absolutely rattled by their number 25 at the back. And it got to the point where he wasn't focusing on his own game at all. You could see he was checking to see where the number 25 was at all times. If you could have a little bit of a dig back, try to start arguments and fights with him, which I know you can get reeled into that sometimes. But I just need him to focus on his own game, and he didn't, and it drawn him out of the game, and he was ineffective throughout the majority of the game, Wilson, because he was so asked about what this 25 were doing. But there was a chance where he did have his back to goal, Wilson. He's backing into the number 25. The number 25, I tell you what, he's about 7-8 yards out here, back to goal, Wilson. Got the ball here, but their number 25 has literally bear hugging him, absolutely bear. He's actually locking his arms around Wilson. Referee has plain view of this. Pulls him, and Wilson somehow managed to sort of fashion a shot, almost like an overhead kick type thing, which goes miles high and wide. But he's absolutely wrestled him to the ground in the process. Ref gives nothing. I've seen some people say, oh no, well, if you give that, there'll be 10 penalties a game. I know there's a lot of, rough and tumble in the box. I do have their hands on each other, I get it. But it was literally linked and locked with a bear hug around him. It was ridiculous, and it was absolutely should have been a penalty. But either way, straight away, in that second half, and this is what I just can't complain about, it was just a moment of magic, really. They come forward straight away in the second half. Yeah, there's like 3 players trying to marshal out one Watford man without making a challenge. Goes back to, is it Louser? Don't know how you pronounce it. It's like Louser, loser, whatever. And he strikes it from a ridiculous range. It's a beautiful goal. It might have taken it a nick, but it goes right into top corner. Pato has no chance to make it 2-1. And we seem so toothless. Now, to Rodgers' credit, he did make early changes, or at least for him it was somewhat early. I think it was just before the hour mark, which for him is early. But the changes he made, he brings on Poveda and he brings on Alexic. Why the hell isn't Mayenda coming on? Mayenda, who I keep screaming for, by the way, the link-up play he has with Isidore, which I'll get into in a bit as well, and the pace that we needed, because Roberts was ineffective as anything, as were a lot of other players, before anyone, the Roberts fan club comes and tries to kill me as usual. He was very much ineffective, very easy to read. But they bring on Alexic, they bring on Poveda, and for me, Poveda, there's a player in there, absolutely. But you could see he's trying so hard to impress, which isn't a bad thing, but he's overly desperate. So there's times where there's players in the box, he's got it on the right-hand side, he's slowly jogging towards the corner flag when we're 2-1 down, doing step-overs, and he'll fall over it, or he'll do a load of step-overs, won't get the ball in the box, goes all the way backwards and passes it. At times, I will say that he didn't have many options on, but there was also a plethora of times where he did, and he was just so arsed about doing a load of tricks. Half the time it'd slip away from him, and he'd lose the ball, and he was just so desperate to show us what he can do, which I get, and that's fair. But it's just the time and place to start doing fucking step-overs in the corner flag when you're losing 2-1. We eventually bring on Mayenda, and he didn't make the immediate impact that I would have liked, but, of course, when we did get the equaliser, ball gets put in from the left-hand side, from Lefay, from the corner, and it's flicked on really nicely from Wilson Isidore, and then there is Cirkin to put it in the back of the net. And I was screaming for Cirkin to get taken off before this, to be fair, because I think Cirkin did have a very poor game, giving away the penalty. There was so many misplaced passes, and he just didn't seem like the races. But to be fair to him, he did get his head down, he did keep on going, and he got the goal to make it 2-2. But back onto Mayenda, so it's 2-2, couple of minutes left, and I thought, right, I'm not going to be particularly pleased with this result, but given we played shit, it's a point. But we went and made 2 incredible clear-cut chances that we are absolutely, it's criminal that we didn't come away with the full 3 points. Because you can't, but again, like I said, you can't play shit for 80-odd minutes and then just expect to win, to play well, 5 minutes either side. But Mayenda, we've seen this before, and Isidore scored previously in the game. It was almost identical to a previous goal that Isidore scored. He's driving down the middle with his pace, and we hadn't seen us open up Watford like this all game. Mayenda's driving at them. He slides Isidore in behind, one-on-one with the keeper. Either side, do it, son. He's tried to be cheeky, didn't really know which way to go, and he's kind of dinked it, barely come off the ground, straight at the keeper, and he's kind of sat on it, the keeper. It was a poor finish from Wilson. He expects him to finish it. But then Alexic, literally the dying embers of the game, the last throw of the dice, the last roll, he's gone down the left-hand side, blistering pace. He's one-on-one with the keeper at an angle on the left-hand side, and he's hit it straight at the keeper. It's been parried away and gone out for a corner, and it's just so frustrating. If we didn't have those 2 chances, I wouldn't have been particularly pleased with a draw, but I would have probably been a bit happy given the circumstances. But that's what I mean with the ruthlessness. There's such a lack of bite sometimes with us, and teams like Leeds and Burnley, Sheffield United, they put those away, and that's why they are where they are. Now, I'll take the point. It is what it is. We move on. We keep on going. Chances of automatics aren't dead. I've seen a lot of people say it. Of course, that if we keep pissing away points like this, it's going to look less and less likely. But you need to remember that how long ago, were we when we were top of the league? The amount of times we looked like we were 6, 7, 8 points clear. Then what happened? Every team has a blip, but the fact of the matter is we need to keep picking up wins. We need to stop picking up wins and wins in succession to put pressure on the top 2. Because I think at some point they will drop points. So we've seen the all capable of dropping points, but we need to continue. But that's it, yeah, guys. Very, very frustrating, but we'll take the point, I guess, in the end. Hopefully Joby's back. I want to see Dan Neil back into that role. I think he's just, for the games that are coming up, I think he will play it better than Samed. I think Samed is someone who probably does need to come on later on in the game. Maybe to calm things down if things are getting a bit frantic and we're already in the lead potentially. Or if it looks like the game's getting away from us. But I think from the start, it just doesn't suit, unfortunately. But anyway, that'll be it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you quite happy to take the point given the way the game went? Or are you frustrated as I am? Very frustrated, by the way. And I'm probably glad that I didn't, or at least I'm glad that I was at work so I couldn't make a review straight after, because I was fucking fuming, if I'm honest with you, for a good half an hour before sort of hindsight kicked in and I did calm down. But there we go. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed, hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. Stay jammy. Highway the lads. Keep the faith.